Hey guys, my name is Loveless, and we are back with Quirk Knife, our favorite story. And so, without further ado, let's get on to it. Izuku didn't realize how much faster he was setting the jogging pace until he passed the halfway point in under 25 minutes. Hitoshi never made his complaints clear despite obviously breathing heavier than usual, but he still pushed himself to keep up. That was something that Izuku really admired about his purple haired friend. He always willing to go beyond his line of comfort if it meant he could improve even more. Hitoshi was beyond determined. I can tell you're all. Hitoshi trailed off while he painted slightly. Izuku bounced up and down on his feet like a puppy about to be given his favorite treat. Jumpy and hyper? Jumpy and hyper? Hitoshi finished after a few brief seconds. Shall I dare ask why? Shall I dare ask why? Izuku mimicked in a shrill voice. Who the fuck talks like that? Sorry, I don't drop curse words every other sentence. Izuku let out a laugh that sounded more like a hiss. Oh, don't be so don't be silly. You just stopped yourself from saying the word fucking, didn't you? Hitoshi's lips quirked upward, and Izuku looked off to the side. Fuck you. Hitoshi snickered in a deep voice and swept some hair from his eyes. But really, what's got your fur all fluffed up, bunny? Stop calling me that, Izuku shouted while literally bouncing up and down with every step, his long hair flapping suspiciously like a rabbit's ears and large eyes looking up at his friend. Whatever, Hitoshi huffed. But come on, really, is your birthday coming up or something? You're really excited. Izuku flashed one of his rare, genuine, blinding smiles and shook his head rapidly, green bangs swaying back and forth. It's a surprise. Hitoshi pulled a strange face. I don't know. Your last surprise was being homeless. I'm not homeless. Izuku nearly shrieked. Stop fucking saying that. It was clear that his tone was no longer joking, and Hitoshi audibly swallowed between breaths. Oh, but what's the surprise? Come on, I want to know. It took Izuku a quick moment for his mood to swing back up. Seriously, just wait, Toshi. You'll find out soon. Izuku jumped up and down once again, humming happily between the deep breaths he took while regulating his painting, not wanting to exhaust himself. The two jogged in a comfortable silence, walking the last block as usual to let their bodies cool down. Hitoshi reached up high and cracked his back. So, do I get to find out what the surprise is now? Izuku pinched his bottom lip as he thought he knocked the door open to the warehouse. All right, I can't wait anymore either. Izuku booked it further down to the far wall of the warehouse, tripping over his own feet, sliding on his stomach that caused Hitoshi to burst out laughing. Shut up! Izuku hollered, his voice echoing dramatic, though the large area that was only brought tears to Hitoshi's eyes as he clutched his own stomach. When we train, you're so graceful like a dancer, Hitoshi wheezed, but you trip over your own feet when excited. Shut up! Izuku growled again, despite the smile on his lips. Do you want the surprise or not? Hitoshi's laughter calmed down, and he dramatically wiped the tears from his eyes. Wait, meaning the surprise is for me? Yes! Izuku screamed in a high-pitched voice like a child, nearly vibrating in his stance from excitement. Now that he finally had Hitoshi's full attention, he knelt down with his vigilante black backpack and opened it slowly. Hitoshi's eyes followed the path of the zipper. Izuku plunged his hand into the backpack and yanked out fabric with a minor difficulty, struggling to hold off a scarf bundle in his arms. Ta-da! Hitoshi blinked slowly, then squatted and rubbed his eyes, then blinked slowly again. Izuku, he said with scarily sweet voice, where the fuck did you get that? Izuku fought the urge to cringe and force a smile on his face. He would just have to dance a rule for the question, of course. It's a capture weapon. We can start training now. The UA exam is coming up quickly, and I feel that this isn't going to be easy as either of us anticipated. And tell me, Hitoshi crossed his arms like a disappointed father and tapped one foot lightly against the concrete ground, lips pulling in a tight line. Hitoshi giggled, sounding sheer close to a schoolgirl giving her first confession to her crush, his eyes getting warmer and slightly embarrassed mixed with a pitch of anxiety. Izuku inhaled a deep breath and explained all at once. Just borrowed it from Eraserhead. Not that he could say no because he was paralyzed, but I saved his life, so he totally owed me. Plus, he has my number, so if he's really mad, he can just text me and swear at me till I'm 6 feet under. Izuku mindlessly pulled on a green curl between his eyes, trying to avoid meeting Hitoshi's stare. When there was no response after a minute, Izuku finally frowned and gave in, looking up to his friend's expression. Hitoshi thought he wasn't returning the eye contact. His eyes was tilted back while his maverick eyes stuck onto the high ceiling of the warehouse. Izuku blinked a few times when following his gaze. Was the roof leaking? The sound of a clicking tongue brought Izuku back to Hitoshi and finally met his dull green eyes. You know what? It is what it is, I guess. Izuku jumped with a squeal. That's the spirit, Hitoshi. Hitoshi rolled his eyes while trying to hide a smile by tucking his chin into his chest. Come on, don't lie to me. You're excited. Izuku shouted, holding the scarf out as he tried not to let it slip from his grasp. So this was Eraserhead's weapon? Hitoshi whispered, slightly amazing twinkling in his eyes as he hesitated to reach out his fingers to graze the support item. Alright, don't go all fanboy on me, Izuku mumbled, suddenly feeling flustered at the realization that he actually did something to make his normal apathetic friend happy. You're one to talk, Hitoshi retorted playfully as he carefully collected the scarf against his own body, carefully wrapping it around his neck several times. How does it feel? Izuku asked, his notebook already out so he can take notes as he saw necessary. Hitoshi rolled his shoulders several times and buried his face into the scarf, instinctively. Izuku noticed how Eraserhead always did the same thing. What was with Izuku and somehow finding emotionless, sarcastic little bit lighter than I thought? Izuku shook his head to escape his inner monologue and wrote that down immediately. What does the texture feel like around your neck? Does it hurt? Is it itchy? Hitoshi hummed in thought for a moment. Not like a winter scarf, if that's what you're thinking. No pain, but it could use some fabric softener. He paused. And it kind of smells bad. Izuku snorted. I'll make sure to tell Eraserhead next time I see him. Hitoshi went to 5 stages of grief within seconds. No, don't you dare, Izuku! I'll record his reaction, too. Izuku! Hitoshi cried, throwing his hands up like a child about to throw a temper tantrum. Before Izuku could antagonize him further, a sharp string came across his cheek and both of the boys froze, looking at the strip of fabric now hanging limply to Hitoshi's knees. Hitoshi touched his face. Did you just fucking slap me with your scarf? No! Hitoshi literally screamed, scrambling back with his hands raised above his head. That wasn't me, I swear, Izu. I didn't do anything except move. As if on cue, the scarf tightened around Hitoshi's knees as he moved to take a step back, causing him to tumble onto his butt with a quick shout of surprise. The fabric twitched at random, almost like when someone is shocked with electricity to a certain extent. Izuku would know his dad was pretty creative with his punishments. Izuku shook his head and clenched his fist, focusing on helping his friend who was currently writhing on the ground trying to escape the confinement of the very weapon that was supposed to help him. With a brief wrestle, Izuku and Hitoshi were able to pry the scarf away and stuff it back into his backpack, both having worked up more than a sweat than they should have. Huh? Is all Hitoshi hummed, rubbing a new bruise forming on his knee. Izuku was upset though, because if he only had the proper resources, he could easily examine the material and locate the source of the problem. He would be able to find a solution, and that would be it. Izuku knew Eraserhead was an underground hero. So that meant he couldn't even go online and find the functions behind his support item. People barely knew he existed despite all the villains he'd taken down in the shadows. With an exasperated sigh, Izuku tucked his hair behind both his ears and rolled his shoulders. Don't worry, I'll figure it out, Tochi. The next day, Izuku opted to completely ignore his schoolwork and instead typed fiercely on his laptop and scribbled down notes like a madman. Despite knowing his first idea wouldn't work, Izuku tried searching for sites on underground heroes anyway. He found very few websites and links about underground heroes in general, let alone a specific one about Eraserhead and the secrets behind his capture weapon. Izuku could have easily given up there, but looking up at Toshi and how hard he's been working on his research paper, it reminded him how hard his friend works. So he'll work hard too. Izuku didn't stop, researching any keyword that came to mind and going further into the deeper parts of the web. Yeah, they may be a little sketchy, but who's gonna judge? After half an hour, Izuku finally located a specific company that was obviously meant to be hidden considering it was under the title Shoe Warehouse Company. There were several passwords Izuku had to put in, but luckily he took the computer programming class his first semester. Sure, it didn't teach him how to hack an underground hero company, but it always let curiosity get the best of him and he had simply taught himself. It's honestly way easier than hacking should be. It took a few tries since Izuku was still no expert, but he eventually was able to locate the coding of the website and simply input the passwords, also writing them down for safe information for later. Now, with full access to the website that was simply called Underground Support, in reality, Izuku had access to all of their products. With some brief scrolling, Izuku's eyes grew even brighter because in front of him was the exact photo of Eraserhead's capture weapon. It didn't give much information on the support item, but locating the information files was much easier than gaining access to the website. With a very vague description in its coding files, Izuku gasped in delight and interest. So the scarf is woven in with his hair, then attached to fibers? It's practically DNA. Toshi looked up. Aren't you supposed to be doing your chemistry paper right now? Didn't you hear me? I figured it out. Izuku beamed while writing in his notebook. Now to find a solution. Hitoshi answered, but Izuku wasn't paying attention, instead mulling over the ideas in his head and how to make his scarf Hitoshi's scarf, not Eraser's. Izuku pulled out his phone and pulled up a separate chat with his new friend. Surely he could find the answers here. Chaotic mess. Hey, Mr. Eraserhead, sir, how's your day going? Izuku waited. The pro hero probably wouldn't have a chance to answer until later. He's a teacher at a prestigious UA, after all, and the hero course teacher. He's probably busy. Sleepy. You mugged me. Or not. Chaotic mess. Who, me? Who told you that? It's a lie. O-face. Sleepy. I was paralyzed, not unconscious, you little shit. Chaotic mess. Okay, I prefer the term borrowed, thank you very much. Besides, it was for a good cause. Sleepy. You literally took the capture weapon right off my neck and booked it. And you want to tell me to use the term borrowed? Sleepy. Problem child. Chaotic mess. Yeah, whatever. Get over it. So, I got smacked in the face with it, so how do I fix that? Sleepy. Good. It's called karma, and that's what you get from mugging me. Izuku groaned and exited the chat. Little bitch, he mumbled. Looks like he's gonna have to fix this himself, but luckily Izuku loves fixing broken things, unless that broken thing is himself. Izuku began by researching nearby construction warehouses. They would probably have the tools such that could help him locate the source of the scarf's problem. Over time, Izuku found himself drifting from construction warehouse over to support agencies. When did that happen? He was trying to find if there's any support labs nearby that would be the best possible outcome for him, and it seems for once luck was on his side. Approximately 40-minute walk, which means Izuku could probably get there under 20 minutes at a jog. Hitoshi thinned his eyes and tilted his head. Izu, what's with that evil look? Hatsumi Support Agency. Surprisingly, Hitoshi never actually tried to follow Izuku on his little vigilante sprees, especially since he's had access to the location. Turns out tonight he decides to try it for the first time. Oi! Izuku called out after 10 minutes of being followed. You really have to work on your stealth. When there was no response, Izuku stopped and placed his hands on his hips, staring right at the figure that was trying to sneak into a brick wall. Stop creeping around like a fucking shadow, you moron. I know you're there. Nothing. That's fine. I'll wait. Izuku crossed his arms and sighed dramatically, bringing one hand up to his visor of his helmet, then examining his nails. The lanky shape finally stepped out slowly, head hanging low in something Izuku could only assume was slight embarrassment. Hi, Izuku said in a sing-song voice. Are you following me? Hitoshi wrung his gloved hands together and stuffed the toe of his boot against the pavement. Maybe. Izuku internally chuckled. Hitoshi looked like a kid that has been caught having his hand in the cookie jar. I mean, you can't blame me. You cut off a chunk of my hair and ran off earlier, Hitoshi cried. So obviously I had to follow. Now exposed to the moonlight, Hitoshi snorted at his little costume. Hitoshi was wearing a simple metallic mouthguard that covered the lower half of his face, and a black bandana with poorly cut eyelets covering the top half. What the fuck are you wearing? Hitoshi groaned. Well, you weren't supposed to see me. Izuku began to jog once again, and Hitoshi fell in step beside him. So what are we doing tonight? We are not doing anything, Lanky. One, no names out here. You call me Chaos. Hitoshi may have startled by the quick change in tone, but he decided to give a sharp nod. Good. Also, you are not a vigilante, just to clarify. It's not that I don't want you around, don't get me wrong. It's just I don't think UA would approve to accepting a vigilante. Hitoshi hummed in understanding. I guess so. The two continued, Izuku telling Hitoshi to stay put while he ran over to the underground hero who was clearly struggling to find something to apprehend the villain he caught. Hello, Izuku waved with a smiley tone, already holding a zip tie in his outstretched hand. The hero blinked, removing the black headphones from their ears to listen properly. Chaos, right? Star said you were a cute little thing. Yep. Izuku let the hero take the zip ties from him. What's your hero name? The hero seemed young like Star was as well. Although their costume was a little more fun, especially being underground hero and all. They wore a skin-tight gray jumpsuit with yellow armor on the knees and elbows, shoulders, and chest, along with a navy blue pattern on the jumpsuit in general. Instead of a utility belt, they wore pouches and pockets strapped around their thighs. Izuku would have to write that down for later. He kinda liked it better than his own belt. Mindbuster. Izuku nodded. Ah, you must be the one with the mind-reading quirk, correct? The hero nodded with excitement. Yeah, don't worry, though. I won't listen to yours and invade your privacy or anything. Izuku gave the thumbs up. Cool. I hope we can work with you soon. I'm currently in the middle of something. No worries, little guy. See you around. Thanks for the zip tie. The little vigilante waved and skipped off, grabbing Hitoshi's arm and pulling him along. Okay, we're almost there. The last stretch was filled with excitement. Izuku could hardly wait to get to work. Chaos! Hitoshi whisper shouted as his friend began scaling the side of a building. Don't tell me you're breaking in. Since when do I do legal shit, Lanky? Keep up. After his moment of hesitation, Izuku swore and clambered up after his friend, struggling to keep up with his speed. You're fucking crazy, Hitoshi muttered as Izuku picked the lock at the window, silently sliding it open and slipping in. Hitoshi landed with less grace than Izuku, but at least the two managed to get inside without breaking any bones. No lights, Izuku muttered. It'll draw attention. With care, the two maneuvered around all the projects and objects scattered around the lab, using the flashlight from Izuku's phone to make sure neither of them tripped and broke anything. Hitoshi may have been freaking out the entire time, but Izuku was beaming under his helmet as they located a clear workbench and opened his bag, laying the capture weapon along with the plastic bag of purple hair that Izuku took from Hitoshi back at the library when he fell asleep. Now what? Hitoshi asked curiously, watching as Izuku examined some nearby tools to see what he can use. I don't know. I've never done this before. He hummed in return, pulling out some fancy magnifying glass. What? Hitoshi gasped. You're telling me we broke in without a plan? Sir, yes, sir. A strange noise from the front of the lab made Izuku freeze, his hand fumbling to turn the flashlight off. The room delved into complete darkness, and the two boys held their breath until all the lights were suddenly turned on, and a teenager who's clearly awakened from their slumber froze in their tracks. Within seconds, the pink-haired girl scrambled over and held a hand out. Name's Mei Hatsumi. What can I do for you? Both Hitoshi and Izuku screeched in panic. What the hell? Okay. I thought they would have. I thought they would have actually not screeched in panic. It would have been like, panicked internally, or would have, slacked John because she just like, hey, my name is, and what can I do for you? Even though it's in the middle of the night. Okay, I would have expected that, not screeched in panic. But okay, we gonna just roll with it. So, if you want to see some more of this, and also my little bit of insight of me freaking out in the chat, yeah, you know what to do.